Hello, and welcome back to Tips with Toni. I'm Toni Marinucci, and I'm a registered dietitian who's excited to share with you some more of my healthy tips. Today, we're going to talk about my top 10 favorite things. Food, exercise, music, all of the things that make it easier for me to commit to a healthy lifestyle. Most people ask me that question very often. What can I eat? What can I drink? What can I do to make living that healthier lifestyle easier for me? My answer usually is I would tell you what I do, but that doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. But today I'm going to forget about that. I'm going to let you know what my top 10 absolute favorite things are, and hopefully that inspires you to either take one or two of those tips and apply them in your own life, or maybe it sparks an interest and you recognize something else that maybe I've said that you might be able to apply to your lifestyle. So I'm really excited to share with you my top 10 favorite things. Of my top 10 favorite things, at least half of them are food. I love food and we need to eat to live. It's just about making the right choices in order to do so. Number one favorite food I would definitely say is breakfast. I wake up in the morning and I'm excited to eat, and who doesn't love to eat? So we're going to choose a healthy option. So my favorite option is cereal. It's well balanced, well rounded, and quick, easy. You can finish it in under 10 minutes and you're out to go to take on the rest of your day. So the cereal that I usually choose is a whole grain cereal without any added sugar. So I use the Cheerios very often. Sometimes I'll do like a Rice Krispies, but I keep it very kind of what you would call your bland and boring cereals. But then I spice it up in my own way using natural sugar such as fruit. So I'll usually put a banana, and then I'll put cinnamon as well. I find that cinnamon gives it a little bit of extra sweetness, but there's no sugar in cinnamon, but it's still really good. And then if I'm feeling really hungry, or I know I'm going to have like a few hours before I'm going to be able to eat again, I tend to put some type of healthy fat in there. So it might be some nuts or natural peanut butter, and I kind of put that in. It's a nice well-balanced meal. And then obviously your milk. So sometimes I do like an unsweetened almond milk or a low-fat regular milk. I personally don't have a lactose intolerance. I just like different flavors. But if you are someone who's lactose intolerant, then choosing something like an unsweetened almond milk would be a good option. Another one of my favorite foods that I love to enjoy are salads. Salad for lunch is one of my favorites because it is light enough but filling enough so you can stay focused on what you have to accomplish, but you're also not feeling groggy and laid down. So you feel satisfied but energized. My salads usually, I choose some type of green that's a little bit darker in color. So it might be spinach leaves or kale or a mesclun or spring mix. I just throw that in the bowl, and then I usually put some other type of vegetable, maybe carrots or cherry tomatoes. And then I'll usually top it with maybe almonds or pecans, some type of nut base that's natural, heart healthy, that's naturally good for our hearts, and it's filling and has a little bit of protein. But then I do use a protein on top of it. So I might go meatless for a meal. I do that quite often. It's a great way to get your vegetables in. So I might top it with some black beans, or if I feel like having something maybe like tuna fish, I get tuna that are chunks in water. I'll throw that on top as my protein. Sometimes I do hard-boiled eggs. It really does vary. Another thing I'll use, instead of the dressings that are already processed, I choose actually yellow mustard is one of my favorite things. I put it on almost anything. So I might put it in my salad with some hummus. The hummus on here is wasabi edamame. It's really good. So if you like spicy, you like edamame, and you like wasabi, it's a perfect combination. So I'll usually do something like a hummus, a mustard, maybe a little bit of olive oil, and then some type of maybe red wine vinegar or lemon, and that's usually my dressing. So salads are a great lunch to have. For me personally, they keep me satisfied, full, I get a lot of different types of nutrients at one time, and I'm able to stay alert for the rest of the day and not feeling groggy. So when I'm looking for something to drink, another one of my absolute favorite things to drink is flavored seltzer. Coconut in particular. Coconut flavorings are my favorite. So sometimes I'll do like 100% coconut water if I'm going to exercise. But if we're just talking about my favorite drink of all time, it would have to be coconut flavored seltzer. What I love about seltzer is, and the flavored ones, is that it has what you would think has some type of sugar and some type of additive, but there's no calories, no sugar, no artificial anything, and it's just delicious on its own. So the coconut seltzers are one of my absolute favorite beverages to have. Now, going into something that's not necessarily food, but food related, are my measuring cups and scale. Why I love these. I don't think anyone should really measure their food or weigh their food every day for everything that they consume. However, I do get a lot of clients that don't understand why they can't lose weight when they only eat healthy, whole foods. It's a very, very common complaint that I get. And I think that the misconception with that is that just because it's healthy doesn't mean it's calorie free. So it's important to, if you're someone who eats a lot of processed foods, I think the next step towards a healthy lifestyle is committing to whole foods. Once you incorporated those whole foods, and if weight loss is a goal for you, then learning proper portion sizes is important as well. So in my kitchen, I very often do measure out certain things, like my cereal, for example. I'll, make sure that it's 1 cup. 1 cup of cereal, if it's like a Cheerios, is going to be 100 calories. But some of the higher sugary cereals, a cup can be anywhere from 150 calories to almost 200 calories. And if you're not actually getting 1 cup, you're probably consuming a lot more than you think. So it's important, just for a teaching method, a visual tool, to measure your food. If you can't do it every day, or if you're out in a restaurant, your hand is another really good option as a form of measurement. For example, a healthy serving of protein is usually the size of your palm. So a palm-sized piece of protein is going to vary depending on the age and size of the person. I actually really like this because it goes to show that a child has a smaller palm is not going to need as much protein as, let's say, a basketball player who's, fully grown and has large palms. They need more protein than a child does. So I actually think that the hand is a really useful tool if you don't have things like measuring cups or scales in your household. Believe it or not, I love breakfast for dinner. Another misconception that a lot of people, I guess, think is that food has to be in a specific category. So therefore, if you wanted to have cereal for dinner, that's weird, and no, you can't do that. That's actually not true at all. You can have cereal for dinner if you wanted to, once again, making it nutritionally well balanced. However, because I have cereal for breakfast, I'm not going to also have cereal for dinner, because that's not providing enough variety in my everyday meal plan. But I do love breakfast for dinner. So my favorite dinner to have is actually a vegetable omelet. And then instead of, some people might put like home fries on their side for their breakfast, I usually use a baked sweet potato. So it's very common, you'll see in my refrigerator, I actually, in the beginning of the week, I'll bake a bunch of different sweet potatoes. And that way, whenever I want to have a starch with my meal, I pull the potato out, it's already ready for me to go. So what I usually do for dinner is I'll make myself a vegetable omelet. I'll take some frozen vegetables from my freezer. On my skillet, I'll usually use a little bit of olive oil to give the healthy fat, and so that it doesn't stick to the pan. So I'll use a little bit of olive oil in the pan, I'll throw the frozen vegetables in, and then I'll throw some eggs. And the whole egg, you don't have to fear the whole egg. I usually use the whole egg, 1 to 2 of them. And then if I want a little bit more protein, I will use 100% liquid egg whites. It's not because the yolk's not good for us. It's actually very nutritious. It's high in vitamin D and vitamin B12. But the yolk does contain more calories. So if you want to have a well-balanced meal with a little bit less calories, one way to cut the corners would be to just have 1 less yolk than you usually do, and really add a lot of those vegetables that are less in calories. So I use the frozen vegetables, the eggs, the olive oil to coat the pan. And then my flavoring instead of salt is I very often will use things like garlic powder or onion powder, and then if I want a little bit of spice, I'll use crushed red pepper, regular pepper. And if I did just go to the gym and I was exercising and sweating a whole lot, then I will throw some salt in there. Me personally, I actually have low blood pressure, so for me, salt isn't the huge no-no. But if you know that in your past medical history you have high blood pressure, or if you notice that your blood pressure tends to run a little bit high, then adding salt wouldn't really be the best option for you. But it does fit in some areas. Anytime before I do exercise, so we're just talking about exercise, my favorite pre-workout snack is usually a Larabar. If you look at the ingredients of a Larabar, the ingredients are dates, almond, unsweetened apples, walnuts, raisins, and cinnamon. You can understand every single word in there. There's no artificial anything. There's no additives. And it's portioned, it's controlled, and this has carbohydrates that will fuel my energy, will fuel my workout and provide enough energy for me to get a workout in and not feel like I'm at the gym for 20 minutes and already hungry and tired and thinking about going home for dinner and then just getting off the treadmill and going. So I like to have something that I know is going to satisfy me and is going to help me provide the energy that I need to get a better workout in. So one thing I didn't mention was my favorite things is dessert. I know that's probably going to be a surprise for you that I enjoy dessert. I do. However, I don't usually leave dessert around me. I don't purchase cakes and cookies and ice cream. They're not in my freezer. They're not really in my cabinet. If I go out to eat, then I might have a little bit of something that's sweet. But when I want something sweet at home and I really can't kick that habit or that craving, I actually make my own dessert. And I'm going to show you some ingredients that you wouldn't necessarily think create a dessert, but they do, and it's really, really good. So I encourage you to try this recipe at home. So when I want something sweet, I love chocolate. So I usually use cocoa powder. Cocoa powder is chocolate in its natural form. It's 100% cocoa powder. There's no sugar, there's no milk, there's no fat, there's nothing. It's just cocoa powder. So the cocoa is very, very nutritious, really good for your heart, and it's something that I use in a lot of things. So when I want something sweet and delicious, I decide to make my own chocolate mousse. I use cocoa powder, a little bit of agave nectar. This is a sweetener very similar to honey, still sugar. It will still raise your blood sugars if you are diabetic. It's still a sugar that will spike your blood sugars. However, it's very, very sweet. So because it's that sweet, you tend to not need as much of it. So I usually use this in a lot of my dessert options, or when I feel like maybe putting a little bit of something in like an iced tea, just a very little bit, because you only really need that much to sweeten it up. So to make your chocolate mousse, you need the cocoa powder, the agave nectar, and lastly, believe it or not, an avocado. So you take an avocado, you can use a food processor, or you can get a workout and use your arms and stir really, really well. So you use an avocado, cocoa powder, agave, you stir that up, and you have chocolate mousse, and it's really, really good. If you don't believe me, I encourage you and recommend that you try it. You can get the recipe on my blog.